Hey, I'm Allison from Learning at the Primary Pond. I'm a literacy specialist, and in this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips for having students effectively plan their writing by using graphic organizers. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to do that now, and then also hit the little bell so that you're notified every time I post a brand new video about teaching literacy in K-2. Okay, so let's talk graphic organizers. You might be familiar with things like a Venn diagram or a T-chart or like sequence of events, cause and effect. There's different types of graphic organizers, but regardless of like which one you're using, generally speaking, graphic organizer is a type of tool that visually represents and organizes ideas. And sometimes they can make more complex ideas easier for students and even adults that aren't students to understand. So graphic organizers are super helpful, and you may have used them in different subject areas for different purposes. So for example, maybe you read a story to your second grade students and there's 2 main characters, and then you take a Venn diagram and you have the kids compare and contrast the 2 main characters and their character traits by using the Venn diagram. Or maybe you teach kindergarten and you're at the point in the year where the kids are planning little stories and writing little stories. And so you're working on beginning, middle, and end. And so you have your kids draw pictures, like one picture for the beginning, one for the middle, and one for the end before they actually go and write. So those are just 2 examples. There's lots of great ways to use graphic organizers. And actually, I would love to know in the comments, do you use graphic organizers in reading? Do you use them in writing? Do you use them in both? Maybe other subject areas? Would be really curious to know, because I feel like all teachers are a little bit different. But for today's video, we're going to focus specifically again on having kids use graphic organizers to, make a plan for writing as opposed to just like diving in. Because sometimes when kids get started on their writing and they don't really have a plan, if you've been teaching writing for any length of time, that things might just not turn out the way you would like them to. Maybe not as organized, or a story just goes on forever. So the graphic organizer can help them get focused. All right, so on to the tips. My first tip is to model. So, when you're teaching kids how to plan a piece of writing, you might think like, oh, well, maybe I can just kind of like talk through the graphic organizer and tell them what to do. No, what we want to do, especially with our little ones, is actually, either draw pictures depending on the level of the kids, or write, doesn't have to be complete sentences, but, write little phrases and words to show them specifically how we would plan. And, we might worry like, oh, are they going to copy us? And some of them, yeah, like they might copy or come up with something very similar, but the modeling is necessary. I didn't do enough modeling when I was first learning how to teach writing, but I quickly saw how important it is. So even if you're like, oh my gosh, they might copy me, well, encourage them not to, but the modeling is just something that we have to do. And if you've, modeled writing for your kids, you'll see the huge impact that it has on them. Now, I'm going to be showing you some things from my structured graphic organizer set for kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. And I will include the link for that along with this video. These are a type of graphic organizer that has a lot of support for kids with their writing. Often I will just use simple things like, like a square for beginning, middle, end, and they can draw and write in there. But these structured graphic organizers give them a lot of support and guidance so that they're really clear on their ideas. They have a little bit of help with like the language, vocabulary. And so this is not something that I would necessarily give to my students every single time they're going to plan a piece of writing, but sort of at the beginning, maybe of a unit on, for example, personal narratives. This is something that you could try, or maybe you only try it with some of your students to give them that support. But anyway, structured graphic organizers, I'll include the link, and then let me kind of talk about like this example of how it's set up. So I don't know how well you can see this on the screen, but it says, When I Got Hurt, Personal Narrative Writing Planner. Good topic, because most kids have gotten hurt at one point or another, whether they fell off their bike or, just fell down, something like that. It's a pretty common occurrence. So the organizer gets started by saying, one time I hurt my, and then they check off which body part. It says, I got hurt by, so like, how did they get hurt? And it says first, and there's not a ton of space to write or draw, so it's just like, maybe they draw a little picture, write a couple of words, then it says then, and it says last, I got better from a Band-Aid, an ice pack, a cast, whatever else, or they can write their own. But basically what this is doing is it's helping them get very clear on naming for their reader, you know, because they're writing this and somebody in theory is going to read this, exactly what happened, and then the order of events. So again, this is a lot of support, and I don't always use this level of support, but for some kids they need it, and for some kids at the beginning of a writing unit, it's especially helpful. So anyway, model, whether you're using this type of organizer or a different organizer. Okay, tip number 2 is to have students work with a partner on filling out their graphic organizer. Now, I don't have an example of one here, but I just want you to imagine a graphic organizer that has like space for beginning, middle, end. Very simple, right? But it's something that I use often. And so before the kids write, I might have them turn to a partner and say, okay, I want you to talk about what you're going to draw or write, depending on the level of the kids, in each part of the organizer. I want you to tell your partner what you're going to do. So getting that language use going can help them figure out what to like put in on the graphic organizer in the first place. But also on the end of it, once they've filled out the graphic organizer, you know, it's a good idea to have them show it to a partner again. Their partner can ask questions, which might help them, you know, figure out if they've missed a part or something isn't clear. So just having that perspective is really helpful for kids both before and after their planning. So tip number 2, have students work with a partner. All right, tip number 3 is to explicitly teach the transfer explicitly show kids how to take the graphic organizer and turn it into their writing. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but sometimes, you know, I'm like, okay, we're going to do this graphic organizer and it's going to be great. And the kids do a great job of filling it out, but then like they think they're done. And I've actually had kindergartners, maybe first graders too, take the graphic organizer and be like, okay, I'm going to put this into like a little book, but they write a completely different story. It's like they don't get that they're doing it twice. So it takes a little bit of time for them to catch on, and that is totally normal, but that's exactly why we have to show them, and a document camera is a really great tool for this, or, you know, just projecting something so it's enlarged so the kids can see like, okay, like this is the graphic organizer that I filled out. Now here's how I take it and I expand upon it. I'm going to write in complete sentences. I'm going to add more detail. I'm going to write more, add-on sentences. So they actually need to see you do it and think aloud, like, oh, in this part, I plan to write this. I'm going to write that. Okay, now how can I give my reader more details? I'm going to add this. So they need to see you do this, like take this to your writing paper, whatever kind of thing that you want them to do, so that they understand what that process looks like. And something that I find is very helpful, I'm trying to see, so you might be able to do it with this graphic organizer. This one is the Best Vacation Writing Planner. If I could choose any vacation, I would go, you know, camping, to mountains, whatever. On my vacation, I would like some activities, and then this is the best vacation because, so it has 3 parts. And when I'm first teaching kids to transfer from a graphic organizer to like normal writing paper, I like the paper to mimic the organizer as much as possible. So here's an example. I didn't staple it, but I would like staple this like a little book of a 3-page book where the kids take the first part of the graphic organizer and that goes on page 1, and then they add some more details. And then the second part of the graphic organizer goes on page 2, and the third part on page 3. So it's like a very clear transfer for them from organizer to writing. Kids don't always need to have it be exactly like this, but I really feel like this procedure is helpful when you're, you know, working with kids that are getting used to graphic organizers, or you're doing beginning, middle, end. It just transfers really nicely when the paper sort of matches, okay? And then just like I said with the modeling, it's so important for them to understand that, you know, and see you add on more detail. So it's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna like kind of copy from the graphic organizer and not do anything else, right? This is just sort of like the framework, and then we want to see them add more detail. All right, I hope that this video was helpful, and I'm going to include a link for the K-2 structured graphic organizers, which again provide a lot of support, but some students really need this. I'll include that link. Thanks so much for watching. Hope this was helpful. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.